Hello there, my name's Ian Mitchell and I'm a professional Scrum trainer with scrum.org, and today we're going to be talking about evidence-based management. You see, many executives in organisations don't actually take an evidence-based approach to their business. What they'll do is they'll measure outputs rather than outcomes. This means that they look for things like management products, so-called, analysis documents, design documents, reports, other pro formas, which will be delivered according to a schedule. But none of these outputs actually tell managers that the outcomes that they desire have actually genuinely been achieved. To know that, you actually have to look at the outcomes themselves. There's nothing that can really proxy for it. So evidence-based management is about cracking that problem. How do managers actually start measuring outcomes rather than outputs? Well, EBM, or evidence-based management, uses 4 dimensions known as key value areas to assess this. There's current value, unrealized value, time to market, and ability to innovate. Current value measures things like who's currently satisfied by a product or service, how many people are actually using it, what's the average revenue per employee. All of these things and more can add up to the current value of a product or service. Then there's the unrealized value. What's the gap between the current user experience and the experience which they desire? What's the market share that the product or service currently has? What's the gap there? What's the opportunity there which can be closed? What's the time to market? Okay, that's the third key value area. That's determined by things like release frequency and the lead time on actually getting work done. Fourthly, there's the ability to innovate. That's determined by things like how much technical debt currently has to be paid off. What's the defect rate on a product? How many different versions are being supported? If executives can measure these things, they can get really close to how agile the organisation is. What it won't actually do, though, if you get these figures, is to cause change to happen. For that, people need to inspect and adapt their behaviours. So what managers need to do with this data is to then form an hypothesis, okay? You can call it hypothesis-driven delivery. That's what's really going on here. So they look at some of the key measures in each one of these key value areas, such as ability to innovate, time to market, and so on. And they'll decide, what can we actually do in our business to change one of these things? They'll formulate an hypothesis. What can we do that might move the needle, so to speak, on any one of these measures and cause change to happen? And if they do that, they'll see a result. What they will be doing, in effect, is exercising empirical process control. That's what it all boils down to in Agile practice. The ability to apply empiricism to an organisation's way of working. Now, if this sounds difficult or something that's hard to do, just bear this in mind, right? Whenever there's a crisis on in an organisation, managers will often resort to exactly that kind of empiricism anyway. They'll go straight to the outcomes. They won't bother with any of these pro forma mechanisms, any of these reports, any of these filters through which they normally obtain information. They'll say the heck with that. And they'll go directly to the outcomes, and they'll exert control over them until the situation stabilizes and things are perceived to get back to normal. But then, ironically, they'll revert to their existing practices. Exactly those practices which were found to be wanting, measuring outputs rather than outcomes. So evidence-based management, in a way, is making these proven outcome-based measurements normal, because we know that they work. So I hope you're up for the journey and for helping your organization to become more evidence-based. If you need more advice or more guidance on this matter, go to scrum.org, look under resources for evidence-based management.